Mark was a quiet man in his early 50s, divorced for over a decade, and living a life of modest routines. He worked at a local car wash. Not a glamorous job, but it paid the bills and gave him just enough structure to keep moving forward. Most of his free time was spent tinkering with old radios, watching local football games, and waiting for the days when his son, Ethan, would visit. Ethan was 21 now, in college and back for the summer. With him came his friend, Jordan, charismatic, full of energy and effortlessly kind. Jordan offered to help around the house, asked Mark about his favorite old cars, even tagged along one weekend to the car wash. At first, Mark just appreciated the company. Then came the warmth in Jordan's voice, the way he smiled when he talked, the spark that made Mark feel young again and seen. That spark soon became something more. Mark had always known he was gay. He had buried that truth under years of silence, obligation, and fear. But Jordan brought it back to the surface in a way Mark hadn't expected. It was uninvited, unspoken, but real. He never acted on it, but something in the way he looked at Jordan must have given it away. One evening, Ethan noticed, maybe it was a glance held too long or a laugh that felt a little too warm. After dinner, Ethan pulled his father aside. "Are you into Jordan?" he asked bluntly. Eyes narrowed. Mark froze, heart pounding. "Ethan, I would never." "But you are, right?" Ethan pressed. "Jesus, Dad, that's my friend. He's staying in our house." Mark slumped into a chair. "I didn't ask for this," he said quietly. "I didn't act on anything. But yes, I think I started feeling something I shouldn't have." Ethan's jaw tightened. "You being gay doesn't bother me," he said after a long silence. "But this, you crossed a line. It's not just about you." "I know," Mark whispered. "I know, and I hate that I let it get this far, even in my own head." The next few days were thick with tension. Jordan seemed to sense something but kept his distance. Eventually, he cut his stay short. Ethan and Mark didn't speak much for weeks after that. It took time and painful conversations for trust to begin healing. Mark went back to the car wash, quieter than usual. Ethan returned to school, carrying more questions than answers. But slowly, the distance became conversation. The anger faded into honesty, and while things would never be exactly the same, they began to find something new, understanding, not perfect, but real. Weeks pass. Jordan, now back in the city, walks through a busy street with headphones in. He's distant, distracted, his usual bright energy dulled. He stops briefly outside a cafe, pulls out his phone and hovers over Ethan's contact, but doesn't call. Back at school, Ethan sits with a friend under a tree, quietly explaining everything that happened. For the first time, he admits how deeply confused he felt, not just by his father's feelings, but by his own reaction. His friend listens without judgment and tells him, sometimes love comes in ways we're not ready for. One afternoon, Mark is cleaning a customer's car when he hears someone say his name. It's Jordan. Their eyes meet, awkward, loaded with unsaid things. Jordan hands him a small book. "You dropped this," he says, though it's not true. Mark smiles faintly, knowing it's an excuse to talk. They sit on the curb near the car wash. Mark apologizes, not for how he felt, but for what it cost. Jordan nods. "You didn't hurt me, Mark. You just made me a mirror." There's a long pause. Then Jordan adds, "But I couldn't be the reflection you needed." Later, Ethan and Jordan meet up at a local bar. The tension is still there, but so is the history, laughter that comes easier than expected. They talk honestly. "I was mad," Ethan admits. "But more than that, I was scared. Everything changed in a second." Jordan puts a hand on his shoulder. "It doesn't have to stay that way." The three sit together again for the first time, quiet at first, then slowly warming into laughter over jollof rice and old memories. The air is different now, more honest, more fragile, but more human. Mark starts noticing Jordan stopping by the car wash more often, not to help, just to talk. Sometimes they chat about music, other times they just sit in silence watching cars pass. The tension has eased. There's no confusion, only mutual respect. Jordan has forgiven, and Mark is learning to forgive himself too. Ethan writes in his journal late at night, maybe love isn't what I thought it was. Maybe it's messier, but it doesn't mean it's not real. He pauses, then writes, I don't want to be afraid of who my father is. His own words surprise him. Mark gets invited to speak at a local community men's circle, a quiet gathering of men sharing life stories. At first he hesitates, but Ethan encourages him. You've spent your life working, Dad. Maybe it's time to speak. At the meeting, Mark talks about growing up in silence, about love that felt wrong but never was, about fear and family. There's no mention of Jordan, just truth, vulnerability, and quiet strength. Some men nod, some shift uncomfortably, but one claps first, then more follow. Jordan invites Mark and Ethan to a small art showcase. One of the pieces, abstract but raw, is clearly inspired by the events that lived. Mark looks at it for a long time. It's beautiful, he says. Jordan smiles. It's not just about you, it's about all of us. Mark and Ethan sit on the balcony at home. The night is quiet. I was scared you'd hate me, Mark says. Ethan replies, I did. For a while, but I hated not understanding you more. They laugh softly, not because it's funny, but because the heaviness has finally started to lift. Jordan is offered a short-term artist residency in Ghana. He accepts. At the farewell dinner, Ethan raises a toast. To the people who challenge us, and to those who stay. Jordan grins. And to those who let go when it's time. Mark walks through the car wash, alone but smiling. He started hiring younger boys to train. He's mentoring, giving back. One of the boys jokes, Oga, you dey clean too serious. Mark just laughs. There's peace in him now. Ethan is graduating soon. In his final essay, he writes about his father, not as a confession, but as a tribute to strength, vulnerability, and becoming a better man. He ends with, some stories break you, others teach you how to rebuild.